Korea has unveiled its first-ever blueprint for conventionally armed nuclear-powered submarines, vowing to coordinate closely with the U.S. while adhering to international non-proliferation standards. Korean stocks rebounded to the 8,000-point range on Tuesday as investor sentiment improved on signs of progress in U.S.-Iran peace talks, despite the fresh American strikes on Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says a deal to end the U.S.-Israel conflict with Iran may still take several days, as Washington confirmed strikes on Iranian missile sites and mine-laying vessels in southern Iran, while negotiations continued in Qatar. Korea has unveiled a much-anticipated plan to develop its own nuclear-powered submarines, as President Lee Jae-myung today held the first meeting of the Future Defense Strategy Committee. Our Oh Soo-young starts off.
Korea has set out its first-ever plan to develop conventionally armed nuclear-powered submarines, pledging close communication with the United States and strict compliance to non-proliferation rules. The Defense Ministry unveiled a roadmap Tuesday, naming it the Changbogo N project, a nod to Korea's first naval submarine, the ROKS Changbogo, with the N standing for Next Generation, Nuclear-Powered and New Advanced Technologies. This comes as North Korea continues to grow submarine-launched nuclear missile threats. Seoul's goal is to launch the first vessel in the mid-2030s, with deployment expected after the late 2030s. The submarine would use low-enriched uranium reactors designed for long-cycle operation to minimize fuel replacement. Development will be local, with Seoul seeking independent maintenance and sustainment capabilities. The program will manage the submarine's full life cycle, from design and construction to operation, fuel management and decommissioning. The ministry also laid out 3 non-proliferation commitments, stating Korea will neither possess nor develop nuclear weapons in any form. Seoul also pledged to coordinate closely with Washington on securing and managing low-enriched uranium while fulfilling its non-proliferation obligations. Korea will in fact establish a safeguard system with the International Atomic Energy Agency, especially for nuclear-powered submarines. The announcement follows moves by Seoul and Washington to implement security commitments agreed by Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump and outlined in a joint fact sheet last year, including U.S. cooperation on Korea's nuclear-powered submarines initiative and Seoul's push for civil uranium enrichment and spent fuel reprocessing rights.
The United States should view South Korea's request not primarily as a proliferation risk, but as an alliance adaptation issue. For the United States, supporting South Korea's nuclear-powered submarine ambition would strengthen allied undersea capacity at a time when China's neighbor expansion and North Korea's nuclear threat are both intensifying. A South Korean SSN capability could contribute to deterrence, sea lane security, anti-submarine warfare, and broader Indo-Pacific maritime stability.
In Washington, D.C. last week, First Vice Foreign Minister Park Yun-jo met with his counterpart, U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Alison Hooker, who will lead an interagency delegation to launch bilateral working groups in Seoul in the coming weeks. On Tuesday, President Lee said nuclear-powered submarines built on the foundation of a firm alliance with the U.S. symbolize Korea's determination to take responsibility for peace and security on the Korean peninsula. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
North Korea launched close-range ballistic missiles and artillery rockets toward the West Sea earlier this afternoon. Seoul's Joint Chief of Staff said Tuesday that the missiles were detected at around 1 p.m., originating from North Korea's Jeongju area in Pyeongbuk-do province, and flew some 80 kilometers. Intelligence officials here and their U.S. counterparts shared relevant information and tracked related movements from the early stages of the launch, while exchanging data with neighboring Japan as well. This latest launch marks North Korea's first ballistic missile provocation in 37 days and its 8th ballistic missile launch this year. The local stock market today reclaimed the 8,000-point level, fueled by strong chip shares and a global tech rally, as well as easing oil prices amid hopes for a Middle East peace deal. Park Jun-han reports.
Korea's benchmark KOSPI has reclaimed the 8,000 mark, closing at an all-time high of 8,047 points on Tuesday. The rally was largely driven by the return of foreign investors. Their purchases were heavily concentrated in the semiconductor sector. As a result, the nation's tech giants saw historic milestones, with Samsung Electronics crossing the 300,000 won mark at one point and SK Hynix surpassing 2 million won. This surge reflects broader global momentum fueled by the artificial intelligence boom, which has led to high returns for investors worldwide. Another major factor lifting investor sentiment is the sharp drop in international oil prices. With growing expectations of a U.S.-Iran ceasefire agreement, U.S. crude futures plunged over 6% to around $90 a barrel, while Brent crude fell below $100 for the first time since late April. Because Korea relies heavily on energy imports, the stock market is particularly sensitive to these stabilizing oil prices. However, market analysts warn of potential short-term volatility.
Many investors remain concerned about whether semiconductor stocks can continue rising, given the sector's history of sharp earnings volatility. However, U.S. big tech companies driving demand for chips are still posting very strong earnings, which continue to support the market. Valuations are certainly stretched compared to past levels, so there might be some pressure. But for now, there do not appear to be many clear warning signs pointing to an immediate reversal.
Furthermore, despite hopes for peace, experts remain cautious due to high interest rates. As U.S. big tech firms have been issuing corporate bonds to finance massive data center investments, elevated borrowing costs could indirectly affect semiconductor companies' earnings as well. In particular, uncertainty surrounding the U.S. Federal Reserve's policy path, especially following the appointment of new Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, could weigh on market sentiment going forward. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says a deal with Iran could take a few more days, even as Washington carries out new strikes on Iran. Kim So-young reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has signaled that Washington still wants to keep diplomacy alive with Iran. Speaking during a diplomatic visit to India, Rubio said discussions are underway in Qatar and that reaching an agreement could take a couple of days.
I think there's strong alignment and agreement on what a preliminary draft should look like. It's going to take a couple days to settle on even down to the disagreements over a word, sentence. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there isn't going to be one.
This comes as the United States has carried out strikes in southern Iran. U.S. Central Command said the self-defense strikes were aimed at protecting American troops. Iran has not yet issued a response to the latest U.S. strikes. This came after President Trump once again underscored his administration's position on Iran: no nuclear weapons. He said 13 U.S. service members had lost their lives to make sure Iran would never be able to have a nuclear weapon.
In Operation Epic Fury, we lost 13 wonderful souls. These incredible men and women gave their lives to ensure that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror will never have a nuclear weapon. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
Writing on social media, he warned that if talks collapse, attacks could resume bigger and stronger than ever before. The hardline message comes as Trump faces criticism even from within his own party, where some lawmakers have warned against a weak deal. At a briefing on Monday local time, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson also confirmed that the two sides had reached agreements.
It is true that we have reached a conclusion regarding a large part of the topics under discussion, but to say that this means the signing of an agreement is imminent, no one can make such a claim.
Against this backdrop, Trump is expected to push for stronger denuclearization commitment in an MOU with Iran, while also urging Arab countries to join the Abraham Accords, the normalization agreement with Israel. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has urged for an active fiscal policy for the latter half of 2026 to prepare for changes after the war ends in the Middle East and recap greater potential growth. Our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min has this report.
Deploying economic measures is necessary to preemptively address developments that will unfold after the war ends in the Middle East. This was according to President Lee Jae-myung at Tuesday's cabinet meeting, which also serves as an emergency economic meeting, as the South Korean government draws up its economic strategy for the second half of 2026.
올해가 잠재 성장률 반등의 원년이 되도록 재정의 적극적 역할을 바탕으로 치밀하고 속도감 있는 정책 대응을 당부드립니다.
He also called for tightening belts to conserve funds so they can be used in areas deemed essential.
불효불급한 재정 지출은 과감하게 줄여야 합니다. 국민이 맡긴 세금과 권력을 오로지 국민만을 위해서 제대로 잘 사용하는 것이 바로 우리의 책임입니다.
Officials noted that the country's nominal growth rate is expected to reach nearly 10% this year, as they say the local economy grew and recovered fast despite the prolonged Middle East conflict.
As growth improves, tax revenue will increase, and these are likely to push up prices and interest rates. We will try to minimize those concerns as we devise a growth strategy plan fit for the new era.
On top of imminent tasks to tamp down higher prices, the authorities plan to embark on structural reform in the public, financial, and labor sectors.
지속적으로 우상향할 수 있게 하는 게 정말로 중요한 것 같아요. 그러려면 우리 사회의 모든 분야를 다 바꿔야 됩니다.
Officials call the timing a golden hour for an economic rebound. It also coincides with the start of President Lee's second year in office, after taking the oath of office last June. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
With just over a week remaining until Korea's local elections, the race for a Busan mayor is drawing growing national attention as candidates offer competing visions for the country's second largest city. Our Moon Hae-ryung went there to file this report.
Busan is shaping up to be one of the defining battlegrounds of Korea's June 3rd local elections, with both major party candidates making their case to voters as the race heats up. On Tuesday, Democratic Party candidate Chun Jae-soo, who served as the inaugural Minister of Oceans and Fisheries under President Lee Jae-myung, attended an international cooperation signing ceremony at Busan National University's Hydrogen Ship Technology Center, an event that speaks directly to his campaign pledge of making Busan a global maritime capital.
This project will not only make Busan the center of international standards for liquid hydrogen, it will generate around 3 trillion won in production value, 1.8 trillion won in added value, and create over 11,000 jobs.
People Power Party candidate and incumbent Mayor Park Kyung-jun, meanwhile, spent his afternoon meeting older adults at a community welfare center, where he laid out his welfare vision, pledging to expand AI and digital technology across the city's welfare centers and senior community spaces.
Busan has a large aging population, which makes welfare policy critically important. That's why we're upgrading our welfare centers with the latest digital technology and AI to better care for our older adults.
The two candidates are painting very different pictures of Busan's future. Chun looking forward, pitching the city as a global maritime and technological hub, while Park is focusing closer to home, addressing the everyday concerns of an aging city through welfare and community.
With 8 days left until polling day, both candidates are going all out to win over voters in what has tightened into one of the most competitive mayoral races of this election cycle. Moon Hae-ryung, Arirang News, Busan.
In Busan is also taking place the parliamentary by-elections, where a three-way competition is intensifying as political battles deepen among the candidates. Our correspondent An Sung-jin reports this from the ground.
Alongside the upcoming local elections, the June 3rd vote also features high-stakes parliamentary by-elections, with 14 National Assembly seats up for grabs.
One of the most fierce battlegrounds in parliamentary by-elections is here in Busan buk-gap district, a tight race between three candidates.
The ruling Democratic Party has fielded Ha Jong-woo, a former senior secretary to the president, on AI. Ha is anchoring his campaign on transforming the district into the nation's premier AI education and economic hub, with Busan's first AI specialized high school and an AI tech valley to boost local education, childcare, and the economy simultaneously. Meanwhile, the main opposition People Power Party has looked to former Veterans Minister Park Min-sik. Park is vowing to tackle long-standing local bottlenecks in transportation and urban renewal through an infrastructure overhaul, presenting a nearly 9-kilometer stretch of the Gyeongbu railway line that currently cuts right through the district.
I don't let myself get swayed by fluctuating poll numbers. Instead, I place my trust entirely in the true sentiment and the heart of the residents here in the district.
Adding to the heavy-hitting lineup is former PPP floor leader Han Dong-hoon, who is running with a bold regional development blueprint. Han's platform centers on building a K-complex arena and transforming the Nakdong River area into a vibrant Nakdong Golden Belt that blends live entertainment, tourism, and local commerce.
I look to bring the kind of development this district missed out on for far too long. Whether I'm running as an independent or with a party, voters recognize that I can truly deliver their promises.
As the race enters its final stretch, with 3 heavyweight candidates offering vastly different visions for the region's future, it is now up to the voters to decide which blueprint will shape the future of their city. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Busan.
Russia has threatened to launch a series of large-scale strikes on Ukraine, framing the move as a response to attacks on civilians. Cha Yoon-kyung reports.
Russia warned on Monday local time that it will carry out deadly, large-scale airstrikes against Ukraine, days after attacks on the Ukrainian capital. Russia's foreign ministry said in a statement that decision-making centers, command posts, and drone manufacturing facilities will be the target of the new strikes in response to the Ukrainian attack on Friday local time. According to Ukrainian authorities, Russia carried out strikes on Saturday night, killing 4 and injuring more than 90 people in Kyiv. Moscow has called for foreign nationals and diplomats to leave Kyiv as soon as possible. During a phone call on Monday local time, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov urged U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to evacuate U.S. staff from its embassy in Kyiv. Russia has been in retaliation after accusing Ukraine of carrying out a deadly attack on a student dormitory in an occupied part of eastern Ukraine on Friday. According to Russian authorities, at least 16 people were killed and 42 were injured in the town of Starobilsk in the Luhansk region. In return, Ukraine's defense forces struck oil refineries in Russia's Bryansk region in return on Monday night. Ukraine has constantly targeted oil depots in Russia by using drones, causing operations to stop at facilities that account for roughly 25% of domestic gasoline production. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
The scale and speed of the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo are sounding alarm bells across health organizations worldwide. Ian-jin has the details.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus has said that the pace Ebola is spreading is outpacing containment efforts. According to authorities from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, cumulative confirmed cases have risen to 101. And the cumulative suspected cases to 930. Suspected Ebola deaths have been tallied at 221. Centered in the Ituri province in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, Ebola has spread to 11 areas, including North and South Kivu provinces. Neighboring Uganda reported 2 new cases on Monday, both health workers, bringing its total confirmed cases to 7. Dr. Ghebreyesus also said on Monday during a virtual ministerial briefing that responders are playing catch-up after a weeks-long detection delay and warned the outbreak is likely to get worse before it gets better. He plans to travel to the epicenter of the virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo on Tuesday. Declared a public health emergency of international concern by the WHO, this is Congo's 17th Ebola outbreak. However, the specific Bundibugyo species of Ebola that is spreading is rare, with no vaccines or medications, making it harder to treat. The WHO said last week it could take up to 9 months for a vaccine. Amid efforts to isolate patients and trace transmission routes, Local police in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo on Sunday had to fire shots in the air after angry crowds demanded they reclaim the bodies of loved ones who died from the virus. Meanwhile, the WHO and the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have unveiled a 6-month Ebola response plan. With a $319 million budget, the plan covers all 55 African Union member states. $265 million is allocated for outbreak response in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, while $54 million will go towards preparedness efforts in 10 high-risk African countries. 이은진, Arirang News.
BTS took home the top honor of the Artist of the Year at the American Music Awards in Las Vegas on Monday, earning a second victory in the ceremony's flagship category. Park Kwon-woo has more.
Members looked stunned while some hugged each other with joy. The reactions came as BTS was announced the winner of the top honor, Artist of the Year, at the 2026 American Music Awards held in Las Vegas on Monday local time. It marked the group's second win in the category following its historic victory in 2021, when BTS became the first Asian act to receive the award, before members began their mandatory military service.
Thank you. It's an honor to have this precious award once again after everybody done their military service. Like the legendary Busta Rhymes said, it's a fan-voted award, so our biggest thanks and gratitude, as always, goes to the armies all over the world.
The group beat out 9 other nominees, including Bad Bunny and Taylor Swift, to claim the award. BTS at the AMAs also picked up 2 additional trophies, Song of the Summer for Swim, the lead track from its latest album Arirang, and Best Male K-pop Artist, sweeping all 3 categories in which the group was nominated. While AMA is considered one of the 3 major US music awards alongside the Grammys and Billboard Music Awards, the AMAs are widely seen as a stronger reflection of public popularity, as winners are determined through fan votes after nominees are selected over factors including streaming numbers and album sales. With BTS sweeping awards at the AMAs just 2 months after the album's release, attention is also drawn to whether BTS will be able to win a trophy at the upcoming Grammys next February. BTS hasn't won a Grammy so far. Also at the ceremony, K-Pop Demon Hunters took home 4 trophies, including Song of the Year for Golden from its soundtrack and Best Soundtrack. Singer-songwriter EJ thanked fans for helping the song and the film gain tremendous support. In addition, Korea-US collaborative K-pop group KATSEYE also emerged as another standout winner, earning 3 awards, including New Artist of the Year. The members also expressed gratitude toward BTS for helping expand global interest in their genre. KATSEYE also performed its latest track release, Pinky Up. With multiple K-pop acts taking home major honors at this year's AMAs, expectations are growing for the genre to further expand its global dominance. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
The wet weather will continue into tomorrow morning across the central regions, while the southern regions and Jeju Island could see rain lingering into tomorrow afternoon. A heavy rain warning remains in effect for the mountainous areas of Jeju Island, where more than 250 millimeters is expected through tomorrow. The south coast could receive over 150, while parts of the central regions may pick up as much as 60 millimeters. Strong winds will accompany the rain as well. Mountainous areas of Jeju Island, currently under a strong wind advisory, could see wind gusts exceeding 25 meters per second through early tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 21 degrees, Chuncheon at 18 degrees, Daegu at 19 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 25 degrees, Daegu at 22 degrees, Gwangju at 28 degrees. After the rain moves out, skies will gradually clear and temperatures will start to rise again. However, with big day-to-night temperature swings of around 15 degrees, be sure to dress in layers.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.